Afternoon, dear students. It's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Jaideep Khalpada from Mumbai for this webinar. Dr. Jaideep has pursued his MBBS from BJ Medical College, Ahmedabad, which is his hometown. He later went on to pursue his master's in medical technology from IIT Kharagpur. Physics and maths had always interested Dr. Jaideep ever since his school days. Professionally, Dr. Jaideep has been contributing to the medical technology innovation over the past 8 years at organizations such as Turner, RasMed, IKS Health. Dr. Jaideep has published a case control study on recurrent miscarriage and is the author of a book chapter on OSA and diabetes. Today, we have got the opportunity to learn some basic of infection control based practices at the crucial time when India is dealing against the pandemic COVID-19. So, on behalf of all of you, on behalf of Bajaj Science Center, I welcome Jaideep Khalpada to start this talk. Jaideep.
Thank you very much for the very warm introduction and good afternoon to everyone. I hope everyone is at their home, is safe and healthy. It's very crucial for us to follow the lockdown instructions that the government of India is giving all of us to obey. So we should follow the lockdown instructions and we should follow all the guidelines that the government is asking us to. With that, let us begin today's session. So today we are going to learn a little bit about what are the best practices in terms of infection control. What are the standard precautions that we are supposed to take during this pandemic. Now, uh, Govinda, can you put up the slides? Yes. So, so the lecture is going to be about standard precautions, but uh, I will discuss in detail the standard precautions which the general population should take during pandemics like this. So currently India is going through the pandemic COVID-19, and what are the standard precautions that every citizen of India should take to ensure that they control the infection and they don't spread the infection further. Next slide, Govinda. So, what are these standard precautions? Standard precautions are meant to reduce the risk of transmission of blood-borne and other pathogens from both recognized and unrecognized sources. They are the basic level of infection control precautions which are to be used as a minimum in the care of all patients. The standard precautions are actually meant for doctors when they are treating patients. Doctors are the first people who come in contact with the patients, and if the patient is infected, the doctor is at a very high risk of getting that infection if it is a communicable disease. So, flu like illnesses or certain blood-borne infections which can transmit from human to human, because the doctor is in touch with the patient, the doctor is at a very high risk of contacting that disease himself. And that is why we have standard precautions which will enable the doctors to ensure that they don't contact the infection from the patients whom they are treating, right? So what are these standard precautions? Next slide, Ganga. There are 10 such standard precautions which are commonly used. Now all these 10 precautions are framed for the doctors to be used when they are seeing the patients who are suffering from infection. These standard precautions, I'll go through them one by one. The first standard precaution is hand hygiene. With hand hygiene, we mean that the person who is delivering medical care, be it a doctor, be it a nurse, be it a paramedical staff, or any person who is coming in contact with the patient, before coming in contact with the patient and after coming in contact with the patient, they are supposed to wash their hands. So they are supposed to clean their hands with soap and water or with an alcohol based sanitizer, so that whatever infection that their hand would have got because they came in contact with the patient is cleared with the help of this hand washing. And before they contact the patient, they are supposed to wash their hands, so that if at all their hands are carrying any microorganisms, they don't get transmitted to the patient themselves. The second uh, the second one is gloves. So all the healthcare providers who are providing medical care to the patients, they are supposed to wear gloves when they are when they are dealing with communicable infections, communicable diseases. The third is facial protection, eyes, nose, and mouth. Now, these are the entry points to the body through which an infection can enter a human body. And that is why, when a doctor is dealing with infectious diseases, a patient who is suffering from a communicable disease, the doctor is supposed to ensure that their eyes, their nose, and their mouth are protected. The fourth is a gown. So, whenever we are dealing with communicable disease patients, we are supposed to wear a sterile gown, which is to be used so that the clothes, the routine clothes which we are wearing, if they are carrying any kind of infection, that infection doesn't go to the patient. And that is why we have gowns which are sterilized using different sterilization techniques, and we wear those gloves, those gowns when we are seeing the patients who are suffering from some kind of communicable infections. The next is respiratory hygiene and cough etiquettes. With this, With this, I mean the doctors who are seeing the patients are supposed to wear masks. If the patient is coughing, we have instructions to us, how to allow the patient to cough. So if the patient is coughing because of the disease, I will not face the patient directly. I will see him from the side. I'll ask him to turn other side and then ask him to cough so that the cough particles do not come to the doctor directly. So these are some of the respiratory hygiene and the cough etiquettes which we are supposed to follow when we are seeing patients who have some kind of respiratory infection. Then there is environmental cleaning. So every hospital has protocols, every clinic has protocols as to how should they maintain cleanliness, how should they maintain the cleanliness of the hospital environment or cleanliness of the clinic itself. The next the next precaution is linens. So all the bed sheets that are used in the hospital setup, even those bed sheets are washed in a particular manner, and it is important to maintain the cleanliness and to make sure that these bed sheets are not infected with any kind of germs so that the patients don't get those infections. The next is waste disposal. So every hospital, every clinic, we deal with the clinical waste like the blood which has come from the patients or any other material which has come from the patients which might be carrying germs and bacteria and viruses. So when when we want to dispose of these waste particles, these waste materials, there are clear cut guidelines which every hospital and every healthcare facility should follow to dispose of these waste materials. And the last is patient care equipment. So every healthcare professional is supposed to be equipped with the patient care equipment. These are the instruments which might be used on the patients when we are treating them, or the instruments that we use to protect ourselves when we are treating the patients with infection. So on the right hand side, you can see the images of healthcare professionals who are following these procedures. Now, when we are dealing with COVID-19, if the patient is within a meter of possible confirmed case of COVID-19, then these are the precautions that that healthcare provider is supposed to take so that they themselves don't get the infection. And on the right side, when they are doing any kind of procedure on a patient with COVID-19, if they are putting COVID-19 patient on a ventilator, or if they are doing sample collection of those COVID-19 patients where the patient might cough, in those cases, even more stringent precautions are required to be taken by the healthcare professionals. We can go to the next slide. Which of these universal precautions are required for the general population? So we discussed 10 universal precautions which exist. Now, which of these 10 are generally required for the population in general when we are dealing with such pandemics? So, you guys think about it, and I can say roughly 26% of the students are thinking that hand hygiene and masks are the only things that are required for general population. 30% of you think all 10 precautions are required for general population. 20% of you think hand hygiene mask with gloves is the right answer, and 24% of you think that hand hygiene masks and personal protective equipment is what is required. Let me tell you, the correct answer is only hand hygiene and masks. So when we talk about the population in general, all of us, we just need to follow hand hygiene and masks when we are dealing with a pandemic such as COVID-19. All other precautions are to be taken by the doctors who are treating the patients with infections. The general population cannot go around wearing protective equipments or gloves, etc. Right? So, as a general population, we are supposed to follow hand hygiene and masks out of these 10 universal precautions. Next slide. So, let us then understand some of the precautions that the general population has to take during such pandemics. One of them is hand hygiene, the second is mask, and the third very important measure we can take is social distancing. We will go through all of these one by one and we will understand how these precautions will help us deal with infections such as coronavirus infection. Next slide. The first one is hand hygiene. Next slide. So, why is hand hygiene so important? Our hand is the most common body part we use to touch different objects, and it is natural tendency for us to keep touching things around. We keep touching our face, our nose, we keep touching the door handles, we keep touching everything that we come across, all the plates from which we eat, the computer keyboard, computer itself, our shoes, everything comes in contact with our hand. And that is the reason why our hand is very susceptible to getting all these germs. These germs might be sitting on your hands, and when you come in contact with another human being, and if you shake hands with them, there is a very high chance that these germs will get transmitted to the person who was not initially carrying these germs. And that is why hand hygiene is very important. Now, what do you mean by hand hygiene? Next slide, going. How does the infection transmit because of because of lack of hand hygiene? Now, this is a very good example. One person was coughing and he had the germs in his hand. He would have shaken hands with three other people. Now, all these three people got the germ on their hands, and if they do not follow hand hygiene, if they are not frequently washing their hands or cleaning their hands with a sanitizer, what will happen is the infection keeps getting transmitted to more and more people. And if you see, the infection which was there only with one person has spread to hundreds of them in just no time. Similarly, this particular person who was at one location, he has now gone to another location. Let's say he was in Mumbai and now he has gone to Pune. Since his hand is carrying the germs, now those germs will start spreading to people of Pune as well. And that is why more and more people get infected in another city because he was not following hand hygiene. Next slide, Gwen. Right. So hand hygiene is extremely important when we are dealing with such pandemics. Now, what do I mean with hand hygiene? It's simply to wash your hands thoroughly with soap and water. The minimum recommended duration to wash your hands is 20 seconds. So it's for 20 seconds you should be rubbing all the surfaces of your hand, all the corners of the finger, the tips of the fingers, on both the surfaces of your hand with soap and water for at least 20 seconds, so that all the germs uh, which are on the surface of your hands, they get washed away. Now let us understand how this helps. Next slide. So what is the scientific principle behind this? Now this is important. So there are two kinds of substances. One kind of substance is a water soluble substance which gets easily dissolved in water, and that is why can be cleaned with water. The other one is a fat soluble substance. These fat soluble substances cannot be easily dissolved in water, and that is why water enough is not capable of washing them away. So if you see on the right hand side top, this particular germ particle is something which water cannot take care alone. Water itself cannot wash this germ particle, and that is why we need soap to wash it. Now when the soap comes, the soap has both kinds of properties. Part of the soap is water soluble, and part of the soap is fat soluble. So what happens is the soap particle attaches to the germ from its fat soluble end, and attaches to the water from its water soluble end, and that is why the particle which uh, was not cleanable by water alone, with the help of soap, this particle is now washed away. This is the reason why we need soap to clear all the dirt particle, dust particles, and all the germs from our hands. Now, when we think of the germs, next slide, Govinda. So, when we think of the germs are also very similar. So, on the right hand side top, there is a image of virus. The virus has glycoprotein at its periphery. You know, the surface of the virus is made up of glycoprotein, and to make sure that we clean this virus and to make sure that this virus becomes non-infectable, it is very important to break this layer. When we wash our hands with soap or alcohol based sterilizer, the soap or the alcohol based sterilizer will actually dissolve this glycoprotein layer, and that is why the virus itself breaks down. So it is very simple to defeat the virus with the help of soap or a alcohol based solution, and that is the reason why washing hands will kill the virus. It is cheap, it is very effective, does not involve taking any medicines, and there are no side effects. But most importantly, this method, this precaution saves life of so many people during this pandemic, uh, COVID-19 pandemic, which we are dealing with. Next slide. The next is respiratory hygiene, which includes masks and sneezing etiquettes. Next slide, going on. Now, how does the disease spread? So, if a disease causes flu-like illness where a person gets upper respiratory infection and has a tendency to cough, the patient, if this particular patient does not follow any kind of precautions, what will happen is he will spread the infection to two other people who are coming in close contact with him. Now these two people will further spread the infection to two people each. So one became two, two became four, and four became eight, eight became 16, and so on. The disease spreads. This kind of a growth pattern is called exponential growth. So it is not addition, it is multiplication. Addition would have been 1 went to 2, then 2 again went to 3, then 3 went to 4, then 4 went to 5. One person is getting added. That is called additional growth. But over here, what is happening? There's multiplication. 1 went to 2, then 2 went to 4, 4 went to 8, 8 went to 16, 16 would go to 32, etc. That is why this kind of growth pattern, uh, the infection will spread rampantly across the country. Now, what can we do if this one person who is the beginning of the infection, if this one person is following all the standard precautions, he does not transmit the disease to the next to itself, and that's why the disease spread becomes very limited. Next slide, going on. Right. Now, how does it spread? So those which are flu-like illnesses such as COVID-19, these spread through aerosols which are coughed out by the people who are infected. So the people who are infected have a tendency to cough, and all the particles that are coming out of their mouth, they contain the viruses, and these viruses then reside on the fomites. Now, what is a fomite? Any particle which on which the part on any kind of an object on which the virus particle is residing on the surface of it is called a fomite. So a pen can be a fomite, a mobile phone can be a fomite, cloth can be a fomite, your hand can be a fomite. So any surface on which the virus can get transmitted by through surface contact, that particular object will be called a fomite. Next slide. Now how can we stop this? So if you yourself are wearing a mask, even if there is a virus in your close vicinity, the virus will not be able to enter your nose or your mouth because you are wearing a mask. More importantly, if you are the person who is suffering from this illness and if you wear a mask, you will not be able to even uh, transmit this in the environment, right? So if you are suffering and you have cough, but if you are wearing a mask, the virus particles are not going in the environment, they are staying in the mask itself. Next slide. So let us understand here what is going wrong in this image. So we have an image where there are three particular people. What can you understand from this image? What is going wrong? They have selected the right answer. 70% of you think that infected people are not wearing the mask. And that is what is actually happening here. So, this particular lady probably is suffering from some kind of upper respiratory infection, and that is why she's coughing around. The problem is she is not wearing a mask. That is why all the germ particles which are there in her body are coming out of her body and going into the environment. That is why whoever comes in close contact with this particular lady is at a very high risk of catching the infection. The good thing here is these two people, the other two in the image, they are wearing a mask, and that is why they are somewhat protected from these germ particles directly going into their body. Next slide going. So how do masks work? What is the scientific principle behind this, right? So masks work on the principle of filtration. It's very simple. So masks are made up of some kind of material which will allow a given particle size to filter through it. Any particle which is larger than this pore size will not be able to filter through it. And that is why those will be caught in the material of the mask, and that is why they cannot go on the other side, and hence your nose and mouth stay protected. However, this is not the only way the masks protect during such pandemics. The other way the mask also protects is reduction in the hand-to-face contact. Now, imagine if your hand has touched some object which had the germs. So, if you touch a door which had germs, or if you touch a mobile phone which had germs, there is a very natural tendency that our hand keeps touching to our mouth, to our nose, to our face, etc. And we ourselves will take the infection from the door and give it to our mouth or the nose and then get infected. When we are wearing a mask, the hand cannot go and touch the nose or the mouth, and that is why we ourselves limit the spread of infection. So this is one more way the masks help prevent spreading of the infection. Can we go to the next slide? So what kind of masks should we be wearing? Now, this is some data which was published by Daves et al. In 2013. What they say is that if a surgical mask, which the doctors wear when they are treating patients, if a surgical mask it gives 89% of protection, then different materials give different levels of protection. So a simple scarf gives 49% of protection. 100% cotton t-shirt will give 51% protection. Silk cloth will give 54%. Pillowcase will give 57% protection. A linen will give 62% protection. Antimicrobial pillowcase will give 68% protection. Cotton blend will give 70% protection. Dish towel will give 73%, and a vacuum cleaner bag will give 86% protection. It is not important that we all of us have to wear surgical masks. Even if we are wearing a scarf, it will still give 49% of protection, which is better than wearing nothing. So if you don't wear a mask at all, you are at a very high risk. If you wear a scarf, that itself reduces the risk to 50%. And that is why any kind of mask is recommended during this COVID-19 pandemic. I'm not able to see the slides, Govinda. So this is how the mask will prevent the particles to enter. The mask will prevent the particles to get filtered through itself and prevent us from infection. So on the right hand side, there is N95 mask. The pore size of this mask is very less, and that is why all these particles, which are germs or dust particles, cannot go through this mask layer, and that is why it cannot go on the other side of this layer, and hence we get protected. However, a surgical mask has allows some of the particles to go through. But if you see, all particles will not be able to go through. Some of them get captured, some of them can't go through, and some of them can go through when they are small. Now, what is the size of different particles? Or human hair is 50 to 70 microns. A dust particle is roughly 10 microns, and the coronavirus is zero point 0.1 micron. A surgical mask, the pore size is more than zero point 0.1 micron, and that is why some of the virus particles may still go through. And that is why it is very important to wear a clean mask, right? The longer you wear a mask, the more particles get trapped in the mask, and that is why we have to ensure that at least the mask is free of all the germs. So to wear a clean mask is very important, and it is not 100% protective, but it is protective to a certain degree. Next slide. So who should be wearing a mask during such pandemics? So in the initial days of the pandemic, when the number of people who are suffering from infection are very few, only the infected people and the contacts of infected people are supposed to wear masks. So if I am suffering from the infection, if I wear a mask, I make sure that I do not transmit the infection to anyone else. And when I recover, it's all good. The infection is gone. If I am suffering from the infection and I do not wear a mask, there is a very high chance I'll keep transmitting it to someone else. But when we come to the later stages, after the initial few days in the pandemic, where everyone can be susceptible, anyone can be suffering from COVID 19, then all people will have to wear masks. So, right now, we are in a situation where whenever we go outside our home, we are advised to wear a mask. In the initial few days, only those who were having symptoms, they were advised to wear masks. But now everyone has to wear a mask. Next slide, please. The third measure we can take is social distancing. Now, how does this work? Next slide, Govinda. So, how does social distancing work, and what is social distancing? Now, whenever a person is infected or is not infected, also, whatever particles that are coming out of their nose and mouth, they can come out in three forms. One is exhalation, which is the normal expiration of gases. The second is a cough, and the third is a sneeze. Now, normal exhalation uh, will allow the particles to go up to 1.5 meter distance from that particular person. However, a cough will allow the particles to go up to 2 meters, and a sneeze will allow the particles to go up to 6 meters. Now, what we can do is, if this person is suffering from the infection, and if I am more than 2 meters away, then I am sure that normal exhalation at least will not reach me. The particles which are exhaled by him during exhalation, those particles will not reach me and I will stay protected. However, if this person coughs or sneezes, I can still be at a risk. If I stay away from him for more than 6 meters, then even I am protected from coughs and sneezes as well. And this is what social distancing means, and this is how it prevents us from catching the infection. If somebody around is infected, but if we are at a very high distance from them, even if they sneeze or cough, the particles which are coming out of their mouth and the nose will not be able to reach us because we are at a far distance. These particles will gravitate because these particles will have their own weight, and that is why they will gravitate down and they will reach the floor. They will not come to us. That is how social distancing works. Next slide, Govinda. So, if you if the government implements social distancing, and there was 75% reduction, and 75% reduction of social contacts. On day 30, out of one, only 2.5 people more get infected. So if one person had the infection, after 30 days, he will transmit it only to 2.5 people. But if social distancing is not followed, then one person who was infected can transmit it to 406 different people within 30 days. So this is one thing we can do to prevent the spread of coronavirus during pandemic like this. Next slide, please. This is what social distancing essentially means. So this particular person, whatever exhalation, sneeze or cough that that person does, all the particles that come to the environment will be present within this radius, this circular radius. So if no one is in that region, they are less likely to catch the infection. If everyone is at a distance from each other, it will ensure that the infection from this person does not get transmitted to the other people around him. That is why it's really important to follow social distancing. Next slide. So that brings us to the end of our discussion. These are the three population measures that we are supposed to follow during COVID-19 pandemic. We are supposed to follow our hand hygiene. We are supposed to wear masks whenever we go outside our home, and we are supposed to follow social distancing. Make sure you stay away from people as much as possible. Stay at a very large distance from them. So we have the Q&A now, Govinda.
Thank you very much for making us all aware about the precautions which all of us should need to take for this COVID-19 crisis. I think the presentation was very clear and the message is very clear from your side. It was pretty simple to understand. Thank you very much. So